What are we on? Is this episode 22, 23, 25, 800, 700?
I think you're like 26 or 27. I've listened to like 6 or 7 of your episodes now.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I just posted, I think, my 34th and 35th today.
Okay.
So I do a lot of work. I'm probably putting out 3 to 4 every week is what I'm trying to do.
That's good.
I go through Buzzsprout. I have the full premium package, the 12 hours. So I try to use the 12 hours up every single month to be able to get that out on all the platforms. So
definitely. Cool. We're episode 23, Kyla. Cool. All right. So I'm going to start here soon. I have you as co-host. So I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm recording it right now. So.
Okay.
Yep. We're all set up that way.
Okay. So you'll have to send that recording to me somehow because it looks because I'm able to record it virtually to my computer.
Okay.
2 people.
Yeah, I can even edit it and everything for you and have it to where I can send it over to you from where we start. It'll be the video right from where we start to the end.
Cool.
So yeah,
Works
that will be
it. Works for me. All right, well, let's get into it. Welcome back, guys. Episode 23, Wagon Podcast. Today we have a special guest with us. His name is Del Bacon. Is that your real name? I should ask.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
That's a cool name. I wish my last name was Pork, Patrick Pork. Kyla, if you could have any last name, what would yours be? It has to be some kind of meat or, yeah.
Some kind of meat?
Or fruit, whatever.
Some kind of meat product.
Oh my gosh.
Kyla quinoa. Boom, there we go. You like quinoa, don't you?
I mean,
no, it's okay.
I'll eat it.
Yeah, it's like eating blankness, It has no flavor. Weird. Yeah. Anyways, Del has kind of an interesting story, an interesting take on recovery. I guess first of all, Del, if you wanted to just introduce yourself a little bit, tell us who you are.
Sure. Okay. So, like you said, Del Bacon. I have a podcast that I'm doing now. It's called The Recovery Atheist. You can find me on YouTube and all over. I'm on about 8 or 9 different platforms. What's cool about it is you can even go on Alexa and say, "Hey Alexa, play The Recovery Atheist," and it'll do it. I tried it the other day. It's awesome.
Oh, nice.
So what I got into this to do pretty much is because I am in recovery. I am an alcoholic. In about a week here, I'll have 7 months sober.
Congratulations.
And it's been a struggle over the last 6 years. I had 13 years sober. I was a licensed LADC for the state of Minnesota for 8 years. So I've worked in treatments and dealt with AA for the last 17, 18 years. And so what I found is even through doing AA and support groups like that, I was not getting enough support there to be able to stay sober. And I started looking into it. My mom and dad, they're both ministers. So I was raised in a Pentecostal home.
Okay.
So church and God has been at the forefront all the time when it comes to me in my life. And over the last few years or so, I started questioning my faith that way. And as time went on, I started realizing more and more that I just didn't believe in God. Now, it doesn't mean I don't believe that there isn't something there. I'm more of what you would call an agnostic atheist.
Mm-hmm.
If someone, my thing on this is Christians will say that there's a God and they can prove it. You can't. Just the same way true atheists, hardcore atheists will say, I'll prove that there is no God. You can't. So if someone asks me if there's a God, I usually say I don't know. But from my experiences in my life, I would say and lean toward that there's not.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I really had struggles with what am I going to do since I'm an atheist. I'm not a believer in this. How am I going to be in these sober living homes, which the majority of them require you to do a program, whether it be AA, NA, and have a sponsor and work the steps. which is what I'm going through right now. I live in Great Lakes Sober Living here in Duluth. Brian Enos is the owner of it, and it's a great house. I live in a mansion. It's a beautiful home on the east side of Duluth, overlooking Lake Superior. It's gorgeous. I have my own single room. It's wonderful for me. But part of the requirement is you've got to do AA and have a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian is more on the Christian religious side. And so him and I kind of knocked heads at first when I moved in because of that. But what I've done, the house manager of the house, which is my business partner, JR, his brother, Isaac, he is my sponsor, and he worked with me knowing I was an atheist on how can we form this into what works for you in your views and how you look at things to make it seem logical to you, to be able to believe in and work. And so that's what we've done. I've gone through the steps. I'm on step 8 right now. So I've gone through step 4, which is the inventory, which is the hardest step to get through. And I've done all that. And
step 9 is, for me, is the hardest one.
The making amends.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be. But at the same time, I look at it like, you know what? It's real easy. I don't know. This is like my 6th or 7th time of doing the steps.
Yeah.
So now the amends part of it, I look at it, it's real easy for me to look back at my past mistakes and how I've hurt people and really want to say, I'm sorry, really want to make amends.
Absolutely.
Some of those amends, obviously, like with my ex-wives, those are going to be living amends. They're not going to want to talk to me about anything, but, where I can make those amends, definitely I feel like I need to do it. And I'm really excited to I want to get through these steps and move on. And like it says in the big book, I want to go after it with the desperation of a drowning man, someone who's drowning. You're not going to sit there for a month and be like, yeah, I'll just sit here and drown for a month. No, you want to get through it. You want to get it done. You want to feel air. You want to feel free again.
Right.
So what I decided to do with this podcast is start having discussions, because I know for me personally, I felt like I was falling through the cracks, that I was a person, especially when it dealt with AA and stuff like that, that I was an outsider. And that when I would go into these meetings and say I'm an atheist, people would look at me like, I'm an alien. So I know there's other people like me out there that are struggling with that. I put a meme up on my Facebook page the other day, in my group page, where it shows a guy in an AA meeting, and it says, when an atheist gets told that he must believe in a higher power in God. And the picture underneath it is him at the bar with a drink. And that was what it was for me. I would go to these meetings and I would hear this and be like, well, gee, I'm not going to get any help with this. I might as well just go drink. I can't be saved because I'm not going to believe in this. So they're telling me the only way to do this and get sober and recover is with God or a higher power. And I don't believe in any of that. So I might as well just drink. And so that's what I want to do, is I want to reach out to those people that are like-minded and think like I do and want a different option. AA will sit there and say that they, at least the old timers anyway, will say, that they're the only way to be able to recover is by having AA and having that support group. Like
Kyla probably has something to say about that. I'm an AA person, and she does not do AA whatsoever. So for context, I would say I have a higher power, spiritual, don't really adhere to religion. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not something that really fits me super well. But I do the 12 steps, and I found them helpful. Kyla is Christian, but she also feels the same way I do, in the sense that the 12 steps didn't really work for her.
I didn't do the 12 steps.
She didn't do the 12 steps.
No, I tried. And I was like, I did not fit that mold. I did not like it. I've heard the whole, well, your higher power could be the doorknob or it could be a shoe. And I'm like, how does that help anybody? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, is my tennis shoe going to save me from this crippling heroin addiction?
I've heard that more than once, and
Yeah.
it's very confusing.
Well, I was going to say, let me ask a question about that. So you're a Christian, you believe in God, but it was still hard for you through AA to get the higher power concept with that? Is that what you're kind of saying about that?
Not to get the higher power concept, how it was pushed onto people. I'm a Christian, but I believe that everybody has their own right to feel and be and understand as they are. And I felt like AA pushed that concept onto people. And it's not a mold that everyone fits into. And there, it's not acceptable to not fit that mold.
I said that on my last episode, the Step 1 episode. I'm doing a 12-part series right now where it's Step 1 through 12, and it's just from an atheist perspective is what I call it. And in Step 1, I came to say that when it comes to AA and the way some of them push, it's almost as bad as some of the Bible thumpers that are out there when it comes to religion, as you meet within our mold or you're not going to do it. You're not going to make it. And I just think that's wrong. I think that's a wrong way to be able to try to achieve a goal, in my opinion.
So you're doing AA 12-step stuff now just because that's kind of the deal you signed up for. Do you see yourself maintaining 12-step attendance after the fact, or what other, because I know you're from Minneapolis, but like in the cities here, we kind of have all these different pathways. And when I went through the Recovery Coach Academy, we learned about all these different pathways, aside from just AA, like health realization,
HR,
smart recovery, what else?
Smart recovery. I love smart recovery.
Yes.
We don't really have that up here, I don't think, from what I've seen. But they have one meeting up here. But smart recovery, what I like about that is that it deals more with the scientific part of it, how the brain works, and how our behaviors are caused by our decisions that the cognitive brain makes. Yeah. So I kind of like that way of looking at it.
I love smart recovery. Sorry.
Yeah, I do too. I love the alcoholics of adult, or the
ACA.
children of.
Yep.
Yeah, I do like that as well.
Did you listen to our podcast?
We did 2 episodes.
Yeah.
On the laundry list.
Yeah, I did the other day. I listened to about 20 minutes of it. I was at work and I had some other stuff come up. I'm going to go back to it, but I this last time in treatment, I went to PCC out in Delano. And there was a guy there who was huge into it, one of the counselors out there. And so he gave me the book and the workbook, and I started going through it, and like the traits and stuff. I mean, without a doubt, it was like you're talking my language here. It was like getting hit in the head with this book, you know? So I guess what I'm trying to do with this is just trying to come up, because like I said, AA says that, we're the way and the only way. At times they get that way. I believe that there's more than one way to be able to recover.
Oh, absolutely.
And those options have to be there. I think it's been too commercialized down to a robotic system to it of, here you go, we're just going to put you on the conveyor belt and push you out through AA and through the steps and go out to recovery and recover. I think it needs to be more individualized. I think it needs to be more on a case by case basis to, the person that's being involved. And that person needs to have, I hate saying the word control when you're an alcoholic, but they need to have some decision making when it comes to what they're going to put in their lives to help them achieve that recovery. And it has to be something that they believe in and something that they're truly wanting, that's going to keep them motivated in that recovery.
Definitely. I was talking actually to a professional in the field recently, and we got in a discussion about, there was this statistic. We were talking about the different models for why addiction happens. You got the disease model, behavior model, environment model, and so forth. And in the environment model, she was talking about how people with lack of religious affiliation have a higher propensity to relapse. And we actually got in kind of a little bit of an argument, because I was like, well, what if your client is an atheist? And she's like, well, they have to believe in something. What are you going to tell them to do? Believe in themselves? So there's stigma within the addiction recovery industry. And that also needs to change, as well as the pathways and the support groups that exist.
Yeah, because I would ask in that situation is, what's so wrong with believing in yourself?
Right.
Truly.
I would say too,
I
they
mean,
probably have a higher relapse rate because of people like her, right? Who are like,
Exactly.
you're not going to recover.
That's
You
a
are
good point.
not going to do this without God or without a higher power. Like, of course, if everyone's pushing them down.
And here's
Right.
my big thing. If you want to work in the industry as a counselor, you're going to be providing something called person-centered care. And when you have an objective where it's like, okay, I'm going to help you get sober, but my objective is you have to believe in something, that's not person-centered care if that person doesn't want that.
Well, and this person that you're talking about is an educator.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to go as far as to, but
well, she's right.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. She's right. She's right, though. I mean, they're in a position of authority that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to sit there and try to it's almost like a brainwashing, a conditioning that way. It's like you need to allow your client to have an open mind and be able to work through these things and figure it out for themselves.
Right.
When I was a counseling, we do motivational interviewing, and pretty much what I would do is get to the point where just by asking questions, they're figuring out their own scenario, their own answers to what they need to do without me suggesting it to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to be more to where they're able to decide that on their own. The thing is one of the things that really annoys me, really gets on, I have an episode on my podcast called What Grinds My Gears.
Love it.
So what grinds my gears about
we should do that.
Some of these, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Good old Family Guy coming through for me.
Yeah.
So what really grinds my gears about this is that, and I almost lost my thought. I'm there, but it's that actually I did lose my thought. What were we just talking about again?
Stigma within the industry, I think. And
right.
Yep.
Right. So again, I lost it. Well, I'll come back to it. Just keep going.
Yeah. So what?
I had a good thought.
Yeah. Sometimes they fall off the tracks a little bit. So what are some solutions to specifically the recovery community? So when I think of the solution to staying and maintaining my recovery, I don't always see it as much of a spiritual solution as I do a community solution. So I think a lot of people are drawn to AA because it's there, it's consistent, they have clubs, they have these fellowships, and they know their friends are going to be there. So
the social angle.
That in my opinion is what saves people, because I know a lot of people that go to these meetings that they don't do any steps. And old timers would say, oh, well, then they're not going to stay sober, or that's not true recovery. But I see a lot of people maintaining recovery just by coming to the meeting and just bullshitting with people who are sober. And that's it.
I agree with that. It's a fellowship thing. And that's, for me, I'm a secular humanist. I call myself that. And that's a very humanistic way of looking at it, is that we're getting together, we're working together, and we're using the resources that we have with the fellowship and the connections and the networking that we have. I definitely believe that the fellowship of these groups are very important. Oh, and by the way, I got the thought back about everything,
Nice.
but I'll come back to it in a minute. But anyway, so no, the fellowship is very important. I think too much pressure is being put on some of these addicts and alcoholics that are coming into these rooms to have to come up to a certain standard and do the steps a certain way, and it's almost like they're not able to make mistakes, even though we are human and we make mistakes. And I think there's too much of an ego there that happens. I think from the sponsors I've had, I've got a great sponsor right now, but from other sponsors that I've had, I see a lot of ego in a lot of the rooms and a lot of the people that are involved. Oh, well, look at me, I've got 30 years. And it's like, yeah, and you're one drink away from being right where I'm
Right.
at 7 months. Okay. I really think that there's not, they say that the newcomer is the most important person that comes into those rooms.
Mhm.
But from what I've seen over the last few years, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't.
There's not enough.
It can
There's
be
not enough
very,
emphasis on that anymore. Yeah.
no, it can be very cliquey.
Yeah.
Very cliquey with the groups that are together and the clubs and certain people that congregate together.
You know what I didn't like about that part was when I was going to meetings and trying, it almost felt like people were really, when I said I was a newcomer, I had so many people coming up to me and being like, let me help you. Here's my number. And a lot of people think that's great. I did not like it. I was like,
Yeah.
this is overwhelming. It's too much for me. And I felt like there was such a savior complex there. Like,
Right.
I
People
have this
an
great
agenda.
recovery.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how I did it.
Mhm.
And I saw so much ego, like you said,
Absolutely.
and people who really like flock to the newcomer. And I'm like, that's kind of creepy. I don't like that. And that really turned me away from finding a sponsor, like I was told, and all of that.
Yes, I see that, and sometimes it makes me cringe because sometimes it's the same personalities going up and trying to, save people. One of my favorite meetings I just started going to was up in Mille Lacs, and it's this campfire meeting, and it's small, but there's people walking by, and most of these people are actively using, and we just invite them to come sit down with us and just talk and eat some food, and it's cool. And I would like to see more of that in meetings itself, like kind of a come as you are concept.
Well, I think about that when it comes to in a religious context, with like the churches that my mom and dad have and stuff like that, and other churches, we call it church material. We see someone new that comes in that looks like church material, but if you come in and you have tattoos and you look a little rough around the edges, you don't get the same kind of, and I look at that as, well, Jesus didn't sup with just the people that look like Christians. He was with the criminals and the prostitutes and everything like that. Well, that's the same context I look at with AA. We need to stop just looking for someone who looks like they're going to be good in recovery. We need to be able to reach out to the ones who are truly suffering in that. And they're not going to look very pretty. They're going to probably smell. They're going to probably not like you at first when you try to help them. They might not be very open to your help when it happens.
I have to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
When was the last time you were in a church?
Oh, about a year and a half ago. I was living down in just north of Louisville, Kentucky. My parents, they pastor a church there. So a couple years ago. And so they live at the church. Their parsonage is within the church. It's a big building. And so I was living with them at the time in a back room that's right off of the church auditorium. So the last time I was in church was down in Tennessee. I went with them to their general assembly for the church. And mainly I went down there just to get out of town and get down. And it was in beautiful, the mountains and everything. I just wanted to get out of town. But yeah, that was the last time I actually was in a church service, and I just felt like I needed to crawl out of my skin.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. I can imagine, especially.
Well, when you're hearing ministers talking about, oh yeah, this 7-year-old child, we're teaching them how to speak in tongues. Yeah, they have no understanding of that concept or what it is at 7 years old. How dare you be putting this on a child who doesn't even, to me, it's child abuse that way. And I know I grew up in it. I remember having that put on me and that pressure put on me. And they're not given a choice. It's this is the way we believe, you're going to believe it, and this is just the way it is. And don't ask questions about it. Just do it. And I think that's wrong. I think children need to, and I don't have any children of my own, so I don't know for sure. I can't say I'm an expert, but I would think that you would want them to be open-minded and to learn things on their own and come to their own conclusion. I think that would be probably the most healthy way to be able to deal with it. But within the religious sects that way, it just doesn't happen a lot that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wrong avenue to go down when it comes to it. If I have no problem with anyone who wants to be a Christian and believe in that, I don't have a hatred toward them just because I'm an atheist or anything like that. But I want you to make that decision on your own and truly believe it. That's the one thing with my parents that I love them so much, is they do truly have a faith in it and they live it. They go through every day trying to be the best Christians they can be, and they don't judge. They don't try to Bible thump. They have their beliefs, but at the same time, they know I'm an atheist. They know I'm pansexual as well. So they look at me and still love me, even though I go against everything that they believe in. That I have no problem with. It's the radical Christians, especially now that we're seeing with the political era that we're in right now.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing these radical Christians that you see them on Facebook and social media and videos and everything that are so hateful.
Yeah.
So judgmental, and do not want anyone else's voice to be heard but theirs. And it's just that part of it that something needs to change with that. It needs to stop.
Well,
so,
I think that, as a society, we tend to amplify those voices, and those are the voices that are seen 100%. And so I think when you're looking at the church and Christians, those are the anomalies of what I'm seeing. Like you had mentioned before, they're not as accepting, but when I was last in church, I was surrounded by guys with full body tattoos. They had sleeveless cutoff shirts. They're wearing biker vests. They're in recovery. And it's not pushed on you, but the main concept of the church I go to is to love everyone. And I think that the church has morphed now into this space where everyone's really accepted, but there are still those platforms like Old Timers in AA.
Yeah,
good
correlation. Yeah, totally.
Right, and that's where I wanted to go with it. But real quick, and then we'll go to what you just talked about. But my parents, and the way their church believes, they look at those churches that have that more laid back way of feel to it, to where they're not judgmental. They got the tattoos, they got everything like that going on, is that you're just trying to adjust it to pull people into the church by saying words and doing things just to draw them in. You're not really upholding what the Bible says, which is to keep the temple clean, which is to, no tattoos, which, as you can tell, I have plenty. So going and correlating that back to AA, which is perfect, Patrick, is like, it's completely being done the same way in AA, to where there's that stigma there. They want to act like they're flexible and that they're accepting and that they want to bring in these people. But this is why if you look at their numbers over the years, they're losing numbers right now, and why you hear a lot of people going, I wish there was more groups that had young people, is because the old timers have kind of just taken over the groups, these clubs, and they're coming in, and it's like, if you're a 20-year-old, do you want to sit in a group with a bunch of 60-year-olds? You're probably not going to want to do that. You want to be around more people who understand you and what you're going through at that age. Well, there's not a lot of those young groups out there. The house that I live at, we would have house meetings on Friday nights. Well, we adjusted it to 5:30 to 6:30, so the young guys in the house can go to the young AA meeting here in Duluth at 7:00 on Friday nights. Because otherwise, all the other meetings they go to is a bunch of old timers. So they're lacking, and I said this in my podcast, is they're lacking the idea of change.
Yeah.
They're set in their ways that way, and we all know that change is inevitable. It's going to happen, and sometimes you need to adjust to be able to meet the people, your people that are coming in, to where their needs are being met, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I do agree. And I think if we look beyond that, there are some really good and understanding people and groups in AA and in the church. But I think, you know, way back when people didn't have full body tattoos and they were considered a certain type of person, but now it's so mainstream that it doesn't even make me think twice about it. But people haven't caught up with the times. You know,
they're still stuck. Yeah. Still stuck in the past. And you're right, it's a minority. It's not the majority I'm talking about. It is a minority, and you are right. Those are the ones that get blown up, and those are the voices you end up hearing because it is so far-fetched in what they're saying that it's interesting and entertaining to people. And that's not just the right side. That's also on the left side. You get the left radicals as well that are way over the top, and it's like, I can't believe they said that.
Yeah.
So, no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So what do you believe?
$1 million question.
Like what? Yeah.
Opening up a can of worms here.
In a board, I can't talk. In a 2-minute synopsis.
Yeah.
Give it to us. What's your belief?
Like in what direction? I mean, obviously, you know, I don't believe in a God, but like what direction are you wanting me to take that? I mean, because you're giving me only 2 minutes. So I want to make sure I'm exact in what you're looking for.
Oh, right. I guess that is a really broad question. So you said
it was kind of vague. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Now let me think how I can reword that. Maybe. What? I think I wrote down a question. So for you, I guess.
We'll insert some sound effects during.
You can just cut that all out.
Yeah. Right.
Thinking. So what argument for God and a higher power do you most disagree with?
There we go. Boom. That's a good one.
Perfect one. Morality. I get it a lot. I get it a lot from Christians is, well, if you don't believe in a God, where do you get your morals?
Huh. I'm a Christian and I've never thought that.
I do.
Atheist. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I get asked that on Facebook all the time, and if you go and you look at any of the debates on YouTube, whether it be with Christopher Hitchens, Dan Dennett, Sam Harris, the Four Horsemen, Richard Dawkins, the Four Horsemen of Atheism, you look at any of those debates, the number one thing that they get attacked on is where do you get your morals? Almost like the idea of just because I don't believe in God, I'm going to go out and I believe I can just kill, rape, and pillage.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Interesting.
You're obviously a progressive Christian when it comes to that because it is a big thing. They're like, well, if you don't believe in that, then, you know, we believe in the 10 Commandments and everything like that, and that's where we get our morals and what was passed down through the law of Abraham or the law of Moses and all that, or Abraham and all that. And the thing is I look at them and I say, well, when it comes to morality, the 10 Commandments didn't define what morality was.
No.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, Moses killed a slave taskmaster when he was beating on a slave. Moses killed that slave master, looked around to see if anybody saw him, and then tried to hide the body. It's right there in Exodus. It's right there for you to be able to read. He knew it was wrong to kill that person even before the 10 Commandments even came along.
Right.
So morality for me has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. You can see how our morality and how our rules of living in life in society has changed over every generation that comes along. 200 years ago, what was being able to be done then, today, we've changed laws and things like that to where it's not allowed today. It's more of a humanistic society that brings the morality together, not God. But Christians, like, not all Christians, again, but there's a lot of Christians that will sit there and say, well, you don't have any morals because you don't believe in a God.
That's really interesting.
You don't believe in a God because you don't believe in a God because you just want to go out and sin.
Mm.
Of course.
That, I
Obviously,
mean,
right?
literally, that's what I get. That's what I get told, and it's like, no, that's not why I don't believe in it. But again, I get pigeonholed. I get blanketed into that.
Yeah.
That's who I am, and it's like, you don't know me from anybody else.
Right.
I have seen I have seen it from both sides. I have seen Christians who are loving and caring, who are honest and who are good people, and I've seen ones that are immoral and horrible. Same way over to the atheistic side, I've seen ones that are immoral and horrible, but I have seen some of the most loving, caring, understanding atheists that don't believe in a God or a higher power at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay, so
we want to put it in a box, you know.
yeah, it's interesting that you said morality, because I actually attended an online service this morning, and he talked about a letter that was written to some blogger who answered questions, and this guy was like, "Dear whatever, I love my wife. We have 6 children together. We are in love, but I am also in love with another woman. I'm having an affair with her, but we are in love as well. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
P.S. Don't give me some BS line about morality." And her response was, "The only difference between humans and animals is our sense of morality. So go ask a veterinarian." It's like, that's really interesting that they're talking about that during
Go
church.
ask a veterinarian.
Right? And so I think as humans, we are designed to have empathy, joy, pain, suffering. We have a conscience. And in that is morality. It has nothing to do with the 10 Commandments. It's that we're human. When we do things, they don't feel good because they're not like good things to be doing, right? It kind of goes down.
Even animals, I was just going to say, even animals have some sense of morality in some of the things they do. They just don't go out and kill things to kill things. They are parents. They take care of their children. There is somewhat of a morality even amongst the animal kingdom. They're just not as developed, obviously, as we are that way. But without a doubt, I mean, for me being an atheist, if you got to know me, I'm a very loving person. I'm a very caring person. I don't want to see anything bad to happen to anyone. And I want people to be able to live life and be free and be happy and be satisfied and have joy in their life. And I'm not out to hurt anybody. Just because I'm an atheist doesn't make me this immoral monster.
Right.
But people look at me like, I mean, when they hear that I'm an atheist, it's like, oh no.
Kind of
what do we got to
intimidating.
worry about now?
Right.
It's like, well, why don't you just get to know me first?
Yeah.
Then make a judgment. You're judging the book by its cover. Just because I'm wearing a Recovery Atheist shirt and you see it doesn't mean that you might not actually like who I am, just because I have a different. That's the division that's happening right now, especially in the country we live in today. It's almost like we're back to the Christian Crusades. Instead of using, swords like they did back then. Do you believe in my God? No. Stab, 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 stab. Now we're doing it with our words through social media and other avenues like that. Of, you don't believe the way I do, then you are the most horrible person on the planet. We can't agree to disagree and still love each other if we don't believe the way that we want them to believe. And I find that to be wrong.
We're really bad at loving thy neighbor, right? Especially when our neighbor doesn't vote like us, doesn't pray like us, doesn't think like us.
Well, it's really difficult too, coming from a Christian standpoint, is this fear that if we're not preaching and trying to get people to believe, then we're not being of service. We're doing you a disservice by not telling you about Christ and about God and about how great it is. And it's scary because it's not my place in my faith to push it on other people. But there's also that pressure that's kind of like, well, you're doing a disservice if you're not honoring God if you're not. And so
go out and spread the word. That's what it says, right?
yeah, and I'll speak from my experience, but I'm also not going to push it on other people.
Here's where I think AA really fills the gap there. Attraction rather than promotion.
What?
Attraction rather than promotion when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're a Christian and that's your thing, let like your actions show that, you know, like you said with your parents. I mean, they're just genuinely good people. People are probably drawn to that. They want to know, they're like, hey, you know, I want what you have.
And again, it's one of the scriptures that I actually do enjoy. One of the scriptures is called you know them by their fruits, which just means you know them by their behaviors and by their personalities and their attitudes and how they live their life. I will not, you know, I very rarely am going to go out of my way to say I don't like someone, but I can not like someone on both sides. It's not just I don't like Christians because you're a Christian. There's atheists that I've run into, and it's like, you know what, you are kind of a horrible person with the belief system that you have. So there's good and bad people of all lives and demographics that way. So I guess for me is I don't want to close off the opportunity to get to know people and have someone in my life that can bring great joy and happiness to my life that way, regardless of whether you're a Christian or an atheist. It doesn't matter to me. As long as we can agree to disagree, I'm not going to sit here and judge you on it. Do I believe some of the doctrine and the dogma of it is a little ridiculous? Of course. But I'm not going to define you by that. I'm not defined by being an atheist. I'm Del Bacon. That's what defines me. My personality.
I love that name.
Right. I mean, that's who I am. It's not atheist. Hi, atheist. No, I'm Del.
Right.
And I would like to be treated that way instead of having the stigma, oh, he's an atheist.
Right.
You know, and same way with you with, oh, she's a Christian. No. You're Kyla, right? That's who you are.
Yeah.
So why don't we start, instead of seeing these divisions that we have of who we are, why don't we just see each other for who we are individually?
100%.
And we're not seeing that very much anymore. We barely know our neighbors.
Right. It's a collective conscience that we've all decided on, and it's not an individual perception we have of people anymore, which is
well, like you said, we want to put each other in a box. I agree with that.
Well, and it goes back to, you know, this is a good thing to bring up real quick here, is it goes back to the idea of what we're living in today. We live in a fear-based society, whether it be through, you know, the corona that's going on right now, whether it be the economy, the presidential debates and the election coming up, the media and social media and everything, they push this fear. And it's like we've got to be fearful of everyone, like everyone's out to get us. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that the coronavirus is looking for me personally to come after me. It's a virus. They don't know anything about anybody.
Right.
I don't think that if Donald Trump gets in again, I don't think the world's going to end. I'd rather not see him get in, but if he gets in again, the world's not going to end. The world will continue on, and there'll be another president after him. But we live in such a fear-based world today that it's real hard for people to want to open up and be vulnerable. And that's the problem. That's one of the things I bring to my podcast channel is I want to be true and real and authentic and vulnerable, because that's what people are going to respond to, and that's what's going to connect with my audience. And we just don't see that much.
Right.
A lot of, you know, putting up this wall and making it look a certain way, and it's fake. And I don't want to be fake today. I want to be real.
It's all a filter, right? It's all a filter. So we can cut this out if you want. It's kind of
is it a deep question?
I don't know. It's just kind of been radiating in my head.
Let's hear it.
So you don't believe in God. Is it because of religion and the way people have treated you? Or is it because you haven't seen proof of it? What is your reasoning? Because I want to know, like, if someone doesn't believe in God because of the way people in the church have treated them and the way people in the church have shown up, it's a little heartbreaking for me and makes me angry.
Yeah.
But I want to know your.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common question, especially someone who's an atheist who, you know, was raised in it. I was a minister for 3 years, did seminary for 3 years. So, I mean, yeah, that's a common question I get is it just because you're mad at God or mad because of in it? And I
Well,
get
no,
where
if you
they're
were mad
going
at
with
God, you
that.
would have had to have believed in him, right?
Exactly. And I'm not mad at, like, now that I have decided to free myself and realize that I just don't believe in it, because I felt like I was trying to appease others and believing in this, even though I never truly believed in it. Like, even when I was a minister, I was still going out and sinning.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I was doing it to make it look good to my dad's ministry and to the church, and it was because it was kind of the thing where you follow in your father's footsteps in the business.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's been doing it for 44 years. He's a bishop now. So it was looked at as you groom your child up and he's going to go and do the same thing that the father did. Well, I really struggled all through childhood, even having belief in it. I don't truly feel that I ever had a true belief in it. I don't have any, you know, I do, being that my dad's a pastor of a church, I did see a lot of hypocrisy, and I would have to hear my mom and dad talk about some of the other members that were in the church that and their behaviors, and then seeing my mom and dad, my dad would get up in the pulpit and preach fire and brimstone about how you got to live, and then he'd come home and be a different way. So the hypocrisy part of it definitely was a turnoff, but I get it mainly from my experience. And again, it comes back to what the thought I had in my head that I forgot about, but now I know about it. When we're talking about it's okay to believe in yourself. Well, what I've prayed to God many times through my recoveries. I have tried to believe in that so much and never got a true peace from being able to do that. I find that it's real easy, even with AA, to put all your faith and your will into a God or a higher power, but yet not do the work yourself. It even says in the Bible, faith without works is dead. So if you're going to have a faith, then you must live it and you must work toward it. You can't just sit back and think God is going to be able to do everything for you and just hand it to you. I really struggle with the idea of not being able to take credit where the credit is due. I think God gets too much of the credit if there is a God. You know, you hear it all the time. Someone who has cancer and they go to the doctor, and 2 years later they're cured with chemo and everything like that. And the first thing they'll say on Facebook is, "Thank you, God, for healing me and taking cancer away." No thank to the nurses or the doctors or the medication that was created to help them. Not a single word to that. And I think, and when you ask them about it, well, God gave that to them. They were blessed by God to have that ability. No, they went to school. They put the effort in. They had to learn that. They had to learn how to do their job at the best ability that they can. Let's start giving the credit where it's due. So for me, having 7 months sober, I have not, thank God, one iota for me being able to have the blessings that have come to me over these last 7 months. Okay. In AA, they want to say that it's the blessings of your higher power that's directing you and helping you stay sober. And if you think otherwise other than that, then you're prideful and you're egotistical. And according to AA, ego and self-centeredness is the root of our problem, correct? So I don't look at it as ego. Mm-hmm. I can sit here and say I've put a lot of work into this over the last 7 months to be in the position that I'm in, and I have worked damn hard to be here. I have the right to look at myself and say I'm proud of what I've been able to do. It's not an egotistical pride. It's just the facts. I have put the work in that some other people don't want to put in. Mm-hmm. But I've done it, and I think it's okay for me to take some of that credit. Right. And, you know, I'm not saying I take all the credit. I've had plenty of help around me to help me, my sponsor, the guys here I work with in the business, and my coworkers at work, and people that have supported me through this. But it's me that gets up in the morning and goes out and lives the life. God doesn't do that for me.
Right.
So I really struggle with that idea of we're giving all the credit to something that I can't see or know is even there.
Yeah.
I think it becomes more of a placebo effect that way, is that we're just, oh, God is there and he'll take care of everything, and it's his perfect plan and design for everything. Well, tell that child that was raped and murdered last night, was that his perfect design plan? I really struggle with people putting those kind of words in context when it comes to life and living life. I think it takes the responsibility and the accountability out of it for what you're trying to do with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
That's where I'm at on it. Yeah.
I totally agree too. My mom always said, like, you can put all the good thoughts into the universe, because I was agnostic for quite some time. I was like, well, God's real, prove it, right? And then he proved it within me, and yada yada. But she's always like, you can't sit on the couch and get everything you want and just ask God for it. That's not how it's going to work. And I take a lot of pride in my recovery as well. And I thank God for, helping me through those times. And when you say, like, people thank God for curing them, like, that is really hard to hear. And if I were that person, it would be, thank you, God, for creating this human that is passionate enough to help me. Thank you, God, for creating this space where we could have a hospital and people that care, and a place for doctors. Like, thank you for creating this doctor. It all kind of goes back up to the top of the pyramid. Like, thank you for creating this wonderful thing that saved my life. But again,
right.
It does.
Well, and you'll hear people pray, like, please, God, guide the hands, guide the fingertips of the surgeon and stuff like that. And I just, again, you're taking away the abilities that person has worked hard for and has practiced and put in all the work to be able to have. And, if you want to believe in a God that way, the way that you're talking about it, to me, I can see that being more realistic than what I see a lot of Christians doing. It's almost like they just pass the buck to God. And they can use it both ways. They can use it of, oh, it cured, thank you, God, for curing me of this cancer. Or they'll go the other way and say, she's in a better place. God had an idea for her of what he wanted for her, so he brought her home. She's in a better place. She doesn't have to feel pain anymore. They can bring it both sides of the angle of that, and make God out to be he's the all end everything. And I think that takes away a lot of the credit from the people that are in the middle, that are actually doing the work.
Right. So
I just think it's unfair. It's unfair.
Right. So to kind of wrap this all up, package it, put it in context, kind of circling back to that statistic that I heard about really bugged me, where it was like, people without religious affiliation have more higher propensity to relapse. And so that they're talking about you, right? They're talking about the atheist
and you
and me, and they're talking about, or anybody that doesn't have any religious affiliation. And so there is there's important work to be done here, where, how do we help if that statistic is true, plain devil's advocate, saying, people with lack of religious affiliation are relapsing higher than people with religious affiliation. How do you, atheist in recovery, how do you help those people? How do you reach those people?
Well, I mean, obviously the podcast is definitely my first avenue that I'm using to try to get the word out there. We definitely need to change the stigma. We definitely need to change the stereotypes that atheists are given. We're given that we're heartless, cold assholes. Now, Christopher Hitchens did not help that. He was very intelligent and was very good at coming back with logical reasoning, but he was a prick.
Yeah.
It's just the truth.
Let me insert something really quick here, just because this is a trait that I've noticed with even myself. A lot of times when people float over to the atheism side, instead of being, freed and just kind of like, confident in the fact that they don't have to believe in anything or have a religious affiliation, I see a lot of atheists go down the resentment rabbit hole. Whereas instead of being empowered by the fact that they're non-religious, they focus on why religion is bad. So reframing that and being like, it's great that you don't believe in God. It's great that you found something that worked for you. But, let's not attack the other side, because those people are out there doing good things too, trying to attain happiness just like you are. And so how do you balance
I would say... Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. I would say that I don't try to attack. I mean, if I hear something like in my podcast, if I hear something on the news or something that is completely far-fetched, like in Wisconsin a couple months ago, there was people that went to the city council about it, saying that the masks that you're wearing and the 6 feet apart, it's all a satanic ritual. It's all a satanic ploy to get Satanism in the schools.
How can anybody take that seriously? But anyways, go on. Yeah.
But it still is a major news story. And the thing, those kind of things I'll attack. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I would say when I first started looking into this, I was resentful. Yeah. Again, being true and authentic and being honest, I don't want to lie. Yeah, it was that way.
And so in recovery, we have to pick apart those resentments. That's one of the things through the 12 steps, is we kind of have to. So as a person who is an atheist, it's kind of like unpeeling the layers and getting rid of those resentments. And so maybe a recovery program specified for an atheist that can look at those resentments that might be specifically directed to religious institutions or the people that attend them.
Which I have. It was part of my step 4 to be able to get through those resentments of what I've had toward religion, to free me of it. And when you look at the program, remember what the program says. It's about principles rather than personalities. So you got to look at the principles of what you're trying to live in your life and what you're trying to bring forth to the people around you, and what you put in your heart and in your life. I can't go after, Kyla just because she's a Christian. Now, if I got to know her and I found out that she was an absolutely horrible person, then yes, I might have a judgment.
Yeah.
But I can't just judge her because she's a Christian offhand.
Well, I think if I justified horrible actions because of my religion and my faith, some people are absolutely just horrible people.
True.
And then some people justify their actions because of their faith. And so cause is not always effect, yada, yada, yada. But I think what you both are trying to say is, at the end of the day, you are what I would say agnostic, Patrick.
Absolutely.
You're an atheist.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I literally believe in God. I just don't know that religion has hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. And we are all people in recovery. So when somebody says you have to believe in a God or a higher power to recover, that is false. And Del, you are proof of that. And I think that's the whole point of, our show and your show.
Our show is all about the multiple pathways to recovery too. Yeah. Because we're both taking different paths and we're still sober and thriving in recovery.
And here we all are.
Well, I was just going to say, coming on my last comment on all this, my last little comment I'll put on this, you look at us, we've got the Christian, we've got the agnostic, and we've got the atheist. We've got the full spectrum of what this recovery is, but yet all 3 of us are doing well in recovery, correct? All 3 of us feel like we're providing good vibes and good things to people in our lives and to ourselves, and we're happy and we have joy in that. So that right there proves that you can have recovery regardless of what demographic or what area in your life you're in, and we can come together and have dialogue and be able to exist together and still push the message of that we need to recover.
Yeah.
There's that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to do to bring to the masses, is that instead of judging each other, why don't we come together and just focus on the main picture, and that is recovery, and stop worrying about minimizing each other just because of our certain little beliefs that we have, that really, when it comes down to it, really is very minute and really what matters.
Right.
So that's just the way I want to say it. And we have a line here that we use, and it's, you know what, I'm not right, I'm not wrong. It's just my perspective. It's just the way I look at it.
Definitely.
And everyone has their perspective with it, and I'm going to respect you for having that perspective.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. It was cool to hear your perspective. Glad to hear. You know, you talk about that recovery atheist shirt you got on there. You know, that's a lighthouse for people. You know, there's people out there that are looking for that, and that's awesome. You know, you're out there helping a certain demographic of people, so keep at it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show to let me be able to vocalize what I'm trying to do. I know down the road I would love to have both of you on to discuss, you know, what's going on with your podcast and what you're trying to bring forth in your platform.
For sure.
But yeah, this is my ultimate goal, is to be able to collaborate, be able to be with other great podcasts that are of like-minded, and mainly that idea or that thought is to get that free-flowing content out there to help people, to give them a chance to make educated decisions and feel like they're a part of something rather than feeling like they're alienated from people.
For sure.
Love it. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope you got something out of this episode. We will talk with you next time, and always remember,
life is so much better on the wagon. Bye, guys. Cool. Okay, so
awesome, guys.
So it's recording. Yeah, so it's recording on your end. Yep. I'll send my email. That might be easiest, because I think what happens when you send it as an email, it converts as a Google Drive file or something.
Yes, it'll go to my Google Drive the way I have it through my custom software for video editing. It'll go into my Drive.
Okay,
and then I'll
so
be able to send it.
Yeah, you sound like a techie, so you probably have done this multiple times.
That's my actual title here. Is I'm creative writer, copywriter, and then also editor. So yeah, when it comes to the audio and video and stuff like that, I'm the one. I have a lot of the software and stuff, and I'm really good at dealing with the tech side of it. So.
Nice, cool, man. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll send you my email, and yeah, just let us know. We'd like to hop on sometime. I'm in school full time, Kyle works full time, but you know, we always make it work. So yeah, definitely.
I'd love to dive.
All right, well,
dive into
look for
the conversations with you. So.
Well, without a doubt, I love picking brains of people who give me intelligent conversation. I love having that. So, but yeah, look for me to send that out to you when I get it done, and then in the next few days here. And then,
the only thing, if you don't have to edit it. I release it on Tuesday, the episode.
So I can get it to you today if I wanted to, and you'd be able to have enough time to do it.
Oh yeah. I just need the MP3 file or whatever, however it saves, and then I just throw it in Reaper and mix it up. So yeah, I'll cut all this out and stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll look for it by the end of the day. Okay, I'll make sure I get that over to you, and then we'll talk about a time that in the future here that we can get you on our show.
Okay.
And we'll do some more collaborating.
More deep dive. Sounds good, man.
All right, thanks, Del. Have a great day.
All right, it's good meeting you. You have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, you too.